how did you, so to say, even though I use the word manifest, I am not talking about this law of attraction manifestation that is so common nowadays. The word manifestation is used also in the Bible. So I am using the word manifesting is the biblical meaning. How did you, Martha, meet your husband? And yeah, let's start with that, because that's very different from how law of attraction and personal development and New Age teaches us how to manifest stuff in our life.
Before I answer that, Taina, I just wanted to say that there is in no way, shape or form are we perfect, or nor have we not faced any challenges in our lives, because we have. But I think, yeah, as everyone has, but it's how we've dealt with them that has made the difference. And as far as how I met my husband, as a young woman in my teenage years and heading into young adulthood, I, with my friends, would often wonder, you know, what would our future husband look like? What would he be like? And who do we want in our lives? And I would listen to my friends and talk with them and hear them share, you know, their long list of qualities and attributes they want their husband to have. And often it was the physical, what they looked like, you know, what they sounded like, what kind of job they had, how much money they're making, and all of, you know, all of that was on their list. And I kind of thought to myself, and you know, and I'm like, I can't remember 20 things that I want in a husband, nor would I expect someone with all of those things in, you know, in my life. They're setting a high expectation, and probably setting a bar for disappointment even, because nobody could possibly fill such a unrealistic list. And so I thought I would, I thought of the 3 qualities that I really wanted in a husband. I looked to my father, the kind of man that he was, and my brothers, the men that I looked up to, and I wanted, you know, and I just came up with a list of 3 things, qualities that they had that I wanted in a husband. And they, my list was that my husband would have a pure heart, he would have a good work ethic, was not shy of work, and had a sense of humor. Without a sense of humor, life would be boring and difficult and hard, and like he needed to have those 3 things. And a pure heart would mean like pure intention. He needed a, you know, to come from a place of love in all he did. So that was my list of 3 things I could remember and that were important to me. And we met when I was about 22. His father passed away, and he came back. He was living away from his family, so I hadn't known him previously. I knew his family because we lived in the same area, but I didn't know him. But when his father passed away, he moved back home to be with his mum to look after her, and he came back to church, and that's when we met and became friends. He actually got engaged to someone else. And I was happy for them. Like I was like so excited that he met somebody, and because we were good friends. And then next minute I heard they broke up, and I'm like, oh, that's sad. Wonder what happened. And then maybe a few weeks later he called me and asked me out for a date. And so I'm like, oh wow. So things happened and changed, and that's how we met. And then we married. We went on a date in July. He asked me to marry him in November, and we got married in March. Very quick.
So he also came from a Christian background, but then, yes,
yeah,
did
lived
his
his own life.
Did his loops of
Yeah.
life, and then came back. So you were like both consciously woman and man of God who came together. So, and what moved you when you when you realize that, oh, these friends who had the long list of all these traits that they wanted, and you realize that, this is unrealistic, and I just want these 3 things. What moved in you to do that? Where did you have that trust that you didn't have to write a long list about all these things just to make sure, this is how we who come from another side, that we tend to think that I just want to make sure that I don't miss anything on the list, so that if I miss this one thing, then the whole manifestation goes wrong. And what moved you that you just trusted that those 3 things is enough?
I think I'm just that kind of person. I don't like to do things the same as other people. I don't like being one of the crowd. Like I'm always different. Want to do things differently, and I'm a thinker, I'm a reader, and I sat with that for a long time, making sure that those were the 3 things. And when I felt right about it, and I've learned over the years how to recognize the Spirit when He talks to me, when and when He confirms things to me. I feel in my heart, my mind, that it's right. And so, and then I run with it. That was a list, and I just let it go. And then I let God do His thing. I wasn't consciously out there, like talking to every guy I met. Do you have these 3 things? So I didn't do any of that. So I just let the Lord take care of it, and He did. And I said, when He blessed me with my husband who had those qualities, everything else that I would have put on my list, like he loves sports, he's athletic, he does everything else that would have been on that list, the Lord blessed me with in my husband. So, and more, because we've been married now for 28 years now. Yeah, so I'm still learning about him, and he surprises me every day, and I just love that journey. Yeah, we're having a lot of fun.
Oh, so that means that first of all, when you came up with those 3 things, it wasn't just, sit down 5 minutes and write a list and then burn it, and that you prayed on it, and you spent time with God and listened to the Holy Spirit's guidance until you felt it in your mind and your heart that this is it.
Yeah.
And this is a very different procedure from the law of attraction manifestation, where you just write down a list and that's it. And we don't ask for guidance really, least from the Holy Spirit, and really make sure that those 3 things. So for you, it was the quality and the rightness of those things. And then everything else got sorted when you had those right. And another thing that I'm hearing from you is that a deep faith in God, that He delivers and He gives to you what you desire. Because if you listen to Holy Spirit, then He also wants it for you, because you are following His will, right? So, and not going out there and taking all these actions and being frantic and stressing about it, when it's going to happen, how it's going to happen. I am feeling this is a very different experience from the current personal development teachings. I am feeling a lot of groundedness and peace around it, and certainty and faith in God and His timing and His ways.
Absolutely. Total, yeah, because I've grown up all my life knowing God. My parents taught us as children, and I've been able to trust and also know who I am. I know that God knows who I am, and that He knows what I love and what I yeah, and what I like and everything. So he knows all of that, and he knows what I'm capable of. Also, he knows how to and, you know, and his timing is not always my timing. We gotta, you know, we exercise patience and trust and just carry on doing good while we wait. You know, we're not just sitting here twiddling our thumbs waiting for God to bring what we want to us. You know, we continue to work and you know, and develop our relationships with him and with other people, and that way we get to know. I don't know what I'm trying to say now, but you know, it's just been a wonderful journey just to know that with God in my life, I can trust, and I do trust him, and because he knows who I am, and building that relationship has helped me to it's built a foundation on which I can build other relationships on.
Yeah, that is so powerful. And this, what I love so much is when you say that he knows you. So you don't need to go and teach him who you are, that he knows you even better than you know yourself. So this beautiful humility that is so blissful in many ways. And look, many of us who come from a different background, we are still learning this. And you have so much to give and share from it. I'm seeing like it's like a treasure box of wisdom and experience that you have gained and continue gaining through your walk with God and this dynamic, lively relationship with him. And another thing before we move on to the children and raising children and having teenagers and in family, which is another big topic, I would like to also touch upon something that you mentioned, is that when you wanted to know those things that you wanted to have in your husband and you prayed about it, and you said that you looked at your father and your brothers and you said men that you looked up to. What did they embody? What were their traits? And that's also because many of women of today, I'm including myself in that, and now thanks to Jesus Christ and God and the Holy Spirit, this has been healing big times. But many of us women today, we have a very wounded relationship with men, with masculine, and with authority in that way. And then I had so many years in my life, when you had asked me, Martha, for example, that who are the men in your life that you look up to? Very difficult to find one. Not because they were not because there is something wrong with men, but because of this wounded, distorted relationship. And that is why, because this relationship is not healthy, then we choose partners that are not good for us and we are not good for them, and the whole story goes on and on. And so there is so much gold in this story, and how we can start like healing these relationships through God and Jesus Christ and their guidance, and how Holy Spirit can also transform us to have these healthy relationships, instead of pointing out fingers, that's wrong with them, that's wrong with that, that's wrong with, no, to connect with the right source of healing, which is in Jesus. And this is something I am feeling that we women really need to get very honest with ourselves, because there is a very strong tendency about blaming, and in that way putting ourselves on a pedestal. And I used to do that myself. And so we need to get very honest with this, and really, and the only healing that really can happen is through Jesus.
Definitely. I'm just going to turn the light on. The sun's going down, it's getting dark, but I'll just turn this light. Sorry, I didn't want to.
Yeah, it's good to see you
in the darkness.
It's so good to see you, but it's difficult to talk about God when it's dark, because God is light. So
Right,
now it's good. And it's funny because it's night where you are, and now it's getting light here. It's in the morning here, so now it's getting lighter here too. So we are getting to more and more light, which is always good. So let's move on to the next very important topic is, so you then were blessed with children, and so tell us a little bit about your family life, and so having young children and cultivating your marriage with your husband. So tell us a little bit how that was, because many young families find that highly challenging, is that they say that when they get young children, then their relationship with their husband changes completely, and many of us, there is a separation in the relationship and distancing happening, because all the energy goes to the children. So describe us a little bit, how did you go about that in a family that was led by Jesus and God and the Holy Spirit?
A couple of things come to mind when you ask that question, and one is the support system. So my husband worked long hours, he was self-employed, and now when people talk to him about our children and raising them, he credits me with all of that, because he was hardly home. And so he said, it's because of my wife, our kids are the way they are. And but I credit our support system, which was my father, my siblings, their children. You know, we when I was with my children, my sister, who is 3 years younger than me, her children are similar ages to mine, and so we would get together once a week, and the kids would play. You know, we had that support system. If I needed a babysitter, my dad would come and look after the kids. You know, our children loved their grandfather. My mum passed away before I was married, and so they didn't get to know my mum, but they loved their grandfather. So the support system, extended family, was a huge part of raising our children, and because you know, because we were, I think, and because God was always been in our lives, in my life, my parents' lives, you know, we had similar values. So I had no issues with how they were being raised, and it wasn't in opposition to how I wanted to raise my children. So you know, so that was always a constant. That's been a blessing. Did that answer your question, Taina? Or did I?
Yes, and that is, I have already another question, but let's talk about this a little bit longer, because this is so important too. So community, family and community.
Yeah.
And I am doing a little bit of comparison, contrasting these with this personal development and New Age and law of attraction teachings. Not because this is how it should be, comparing them, but this is how many of us have been taught, and many of us have struggled and are still struggling with them. And that's why I like to make the contrast to show that that is not the only way and that is not the best way, right? So in the personal development, it's said, just do your thing, follow your own truth, and don't let your family to hold you back. And family is often presented as toxic and everything, and definitely it often is, as it was also in my case. But the solution is never to walk away and say they are toxic, they are bad, I need to walk away. The solution is to invite Jesus in the middle of the family. And that concerns not only me who wants to walk away, but for everyone. So the seeds need to be planted in the right way. And another thing is that is what Satan has been doing in our society for decades now, is to, scatter and destroy and distort families, because a family unit is a very strong unit.
Yeah.
Because
Totally
that is
agree.
because that is how God created us.
Yeah.
And that is like a threat to the enemy. And
Yeah.
you had that. On the other side, people, if someone watching this and you are saying, oh, I wish I had that kind of a support system, or migrants like myself who have gone to other countries, there is no family or no support system. So if anyone watching this and said, I wish I would have had that, I didn't have that, so now what? Would you like to say something?
Yes.
I have something I'd like to say, but I would like to ask you first. Someone who has been missing it and who doesn't have that, or where their family is not on the same level in terms of thinking.
Yeah. So along with my extended family has always been my church family, and as well, and oftentimes even, people get disillusioned with your church family. So if you find yourself on your own, building your relationship with God has always been number one priority. He is the one person you can always trust and know that he will be there for you. And building and strengthening that relationship, reading scriptures and praying and learning about him, and developing that relationship, first of all strengthens you. And it's the first two great commandments. It's love God and then love others as yourself. So building that relationship with God enables you to be able to build relationships with other people. So you can always, I don't know if that makes sense.
It is so good. And I love it how you always bring it up again and again, is to remind that the first relationship is with God.
Yeah.
And the other relationships are built on that relationship. And even though we yearn a support system and a community, we all yearn that, right? And I love it how you again reminded us, remember, God is first. And also that reminds, I moved from Australia back to my country of origin and my home country, Finland, quite recently. And I have been hoping for, wanting a like-minded local community where I can also have local community like-minded. And so I have also been going to God, and God, please send me those people. Please send me those people. I don't know where they are. And I wouldn't want to go and run around like you didn't do with your husband. I don't want to go and run around and look for them. You know where they are. And he has been giving me some ideas, totally unexpected ideas, but I have loved those ideas. God always have the best ideas. So I'm also like asking his guidance to send me the right people. And while in the same way that you said that, you know, when you are waiting for a manifestation, you are just not sitting and waiting, and do something useful during that time. Serve, build relationships. So yeah, that's also like what I am trying to do while I am waiting, like living my life, doing things that are make sense to me, doing my best at my new job and in that community. So it's a very rewarding way to live. And just, I really don't have much to add to what you said, but one little thing about to people who don't have that support system, or maybe they have a support system, but they are coming to Jesus and growing spiritually thanks to Holy Spirit and this guidance and this growth. They can't relate to those people anymore. Really to start seeking like-minded people, because God's people understand the importance of community and support. They are very welcoming, as you also say that you had this extended church family. And God always finds a way. And sometimes we need to wait because he needs to strengthen us first. But the timing is always right when we walk with him.
Absolutely.
So, and would you like to share a little bit about how, when you said you had small children and your husband was working long hours, he was self-employed, how did you cultivate your marriage in that time? Because this is also where marriages start to go astray.
For me, it's always been a decision to be a stay-at-home mum. My mother was a stay-at-home mum, and I'd always wanted to be a stay-at-home mum with my children. So I was there in those formative years as they were growing, just to be that constant there at home for them. And oh my gosh, it's my age. I've just gone blank, Taina. What was the question again?
Yeah, how did you cultivate your relationship with your husband? Because he was working long hours.
That's right. So because I know that we live in seasons. Being a young mum with young children was a season. It meant putting our relationship, not priority, but it was always there. Like I was home with the kids, but also home when he came home. And then in the weekends, we got to do things together as a family. And then we would take the kids to their sports together. We did things together as a family on the weekends, and then he was off to work again during the week. So Sunday was also a day that helped reset, recommit, renew us. Every Sunday, just being at church together as a family, and just having that, that reset again for the week, which kind of, took us through the week. And then the next Sunday we were like, okay, reset, recommit, renew, and but it wasn't, we went through a rough patch as well when the kids were young, and our marriage relationship wasn't going so well. I spent a lot of time at my dad's, away from my husband, kind of just to give a space, and that was a trying time as well. But I always prayed during that time. Always had family prayers with our children. Prayed for him, and just for the right time. And like anything I needed to offload, I journaled. Like anything that I was feeling, upset at him about, I journaled it. I've written him letters. I just got it out in writing. That was just kind of my thing, rather than speaking it. I couldn't tell him. So instead I wrote it down. But those were trying years. But we worked through it. We always knew that divorce was never an option. And having God as our rock, or as my rock, helped me to stick with it, persevere, go through. It was another season in our relationship. And now that our children have grown up and left home, we're in another season as empty nesters. It's just the two of us again. And so I've recognized that those periods aren't forever. You're not a young mum forever. You're not a mother with teenagers forever. And, they eventually leave home and you're with your husband again. So we're strengthening, we've strengthened our marriage throughout that by finding those pockets of time together as a family. And that's just grown as we're empty nesters again, and finding and learning about each other, still continuing that relationship. But always with the Lord. When we got married, my engagement ring has 3 stones in it. So it represents me, my husband, and the Lord. So it's always been a marriage that included the Lord. Was meant from the beginning, and it will continue on. Yeah.
You are making me emotional now. So beautiful. And I love it that you also shared in a real way that about the struggles and about the trial periods, because by no means we want to make an impression that walking with the Lord is just ice cream and lollipops. But it's a different journey when the relationship, the marriage, and the family is built on a rock as opposed to a sand.
Mm-hmm.
Because many relationships that also I know myself personally, they were built on a sand. So they were just like, they failed before they even started, because the foundation was completely like not existent. But what I'm hearing from your story again and again, that it is the foundation and the shared values and worldview and commitment, not only to each other, but to the Lord, who has established that marriage, and He is the rock, and He is the maintainer, and that you are going back to Him again. You are not trying to fix the problems by yourself. You are seeking the solutions from Him. So that is what I'm hearing again and again, is this, the foundation, and that you are both. It's not like you are only with the Lord, but also your husband, and that if you are seeking solutions, you go to the Lord and say, hey, Lord, you know my husband better than I do. You know me better than I do. What should I do? What can be done? Please help, or whatever.
Absolutely. I've done that many times. Yeah. Asked him that question.
Yeah.
Even with our children too.
Yeah. We have so much to learn. I'm learning so much from you, Martha. I want to thank you so much. And another thing now I'm loving what you are sharing is the seasons, understanding the seasons of life. Because how many times I and many others, we have gone desperate when things are going in a certain way, and then we get desperate, like there is behind that, there is a fear that it will be like that forever. But you have the understanding of the seasons, and also the Lord has seasons. He has seasons for us. And because you understand the seasons, okay, this is the season for this. And that takes so much trauma out of it, doesn't it? We tend to exaggerate and dramatize things It's like now it's like we are getting a kind of a winter storm in Finland today or this weekend.
Okay.
So it's a season, it's a time, it's a few days. But
Mm.
if I would look outside and look at the storm and say, oh my goodness, I would like the spring to come, how long it's going to last, it will be very, very bad
Yeah.
place. So whether the storm or the sun, it's seasons.
I've seen that with young mums as well, like when they're wishing their children be older, when they're wishing, you know, they'd be off to school and then they can be free to do other things. And I'm like, well, enjoy them while they're little, because it's not going to be forever. And then you're going to look back and think, I didn't appreciate those days, those moments when my child was, you know, was little, because the next thing you know, they're adults and they've gone. So just really appreciating those moments in motherhood. And because I look back and I just like love that, you know, love those milestones that I was able to have with my kids. So, you know, living without regret is one of my highest values, and I don't ever want to regret anything that I could have done when I had the chance, you know. So which is why being at home with my children, being a stay-at-home mum, has been so important for me, to be there as they're grown. Those are the most formative years. But you know, a lot of women want to go and work as soon as they've had the child and put them into daycare and things, and you know, and it just makes me sad to see that that's their priority. But it's really all about the child and making sure they grow up to be wonderful adults.
Mm.
And you know, do you want a stranger to do that for you? Yeah.
And even if we are talking about these, we by no means are pointing fingers at anyone, because we have all made so many mistakes. I am the first made so many mistakes, especially in relationships. So also no regrets about your past. Even if you look back now, someone watching, you have maybe teenage children or adult children, teenage children or adult children, and you look back, oh, I wish I would have known, I wish I would have, don't have any regrets, because God also doesn't allow any mistakes in your life. So from every situation, there is something to be learned, or something that has evolved you into a certain direction. No regrets about the past, but now, no matter what age your children are, whether they are babies or whether they are 40 or anything in between, there is still the now and the future from now.
And there's always forgiveness.
Oh, yes.
You know, forgive yourself. You know, if you do have regrets, I wish I had, you know, woulda, coulda, shoulda kind of regrets. But you know, there's forgive yourself, forgive whatever happened at that time, and so yeah, like you said, there's the now. We move forward. We know different now, so we can make different choices.
Yes, and let's thank God that we can have that insight now and not 20 years from now. And forgiveness, thank you for mentioning it, forgiveness. Let's forgive ourselves as God has forgiven to us. And yes, we are going to wrap up very soon. But before we wrap up, I wouldn't like to miss this one question. Teenage children. You have also had a bit of a different experience with your teenage children back then when they were than most of us as parents or as ex-teenage children ourselves. So What would be your tips or even advice to parents of teenagers who are maybe, if there are problems with the relationships, problems with the family life?
Um, so I know now that if you're having issues with teenagers now, it's going to be too late for me to say start when they're young, because that's what I did. But if they're teenagers now and struggling with relationships, I guess my tip would be to continue to build the relationship with God again. Taina's mentioned this before, and ask him for help. He knows your child better than you do. You might think you know your child, but you don't know him or her as well as God knows him or her. So turn to him for help. I've done that in my relationship and with raising our children as well. And I would hear stories of watch out for those teenage years. When they get to that age, they're just gonna, run riot. But that never happened for us, and that's because we started when they were little. But even if we didn't have that time with them and they were struggling in their teenage years, yeah, the Lord is the best place, the first person I would turn to always, not only in difficult situations, but when things are going smoothly and family life is sweet. Always make him a priority in your life. Never forget him. In the scriptures, the word remember is probably the most important word in the scriptures. Always remember the Lord. He is your go-to for everything. So that, I guess that's my tip for people, teenagers, and
that is such a great message for not only for teenagers but for everything. And I think this is just such a powerful, beautiful way to wrap up this conversation. Do you have a final message you would like to convey, in addition to go to God always?
Yes.
As the first?
Yeah, definitely. I just one thought was when you were talking about women having not having a good relationship with males, or having that positive male role model in your life. And I just wanted to share how important women are in the Lord's plan, God's plan as well. In a marriage relationship, we are equal partners with our husbands. We don't walk behind them or in front of them. We walk beside them, and the woman is so important. Like, you see the relationship that Jesus has with the woman when he came to earth, and the women were an important part of his journey, and who he taught and who walked with him. And women have always been faithful. God can always turn to his daughters when he needs strength. So I just want all the women out there to know that you are daughters of God, and you are important to him. Never forget that, or feel that you aren't. Yeah, just always remember that you're his daughter. He loves you. He will help you and teach you what you need to know. Just trust him.